Hello, hi, my name is Rachel Kambura. I prefer Kambura or Kambu in short. And today we are going to talk about mental health in Kenya. And I'm going to share my perspective about the mental health situation in Kenya. And this will take 10 minutes maximum. So I've been born and raised in Kenya, and I've been raised up with both my parents, my mom and dad. And I've grown up with my siblings in Western Kenya. So I've basically been brought up in Western Kenya, and we came to Nairobi once or twice to just visit my dad over the holidays. So what do I think about mental health in Kenya? I think, first of all, we as Gen Zs, we are moving towards the right direction, especially when it comes to communicating about our feelings, our disappointments, or just generally sharing our thoughts about different things in our lives, which is good. So most of the young people in Kenya are expressive, and they're likely to share their thoughts and ideas. And for being that, we are being labeled as defiant and people who don't listen to older people. So which actually it's a good thing to speak up your mind, because when you don't speak up your mind, you allow for oppression and you allow for suppression, and it's very dangerous. Mental health in our families, of course, we were brought up in families where people never used to talk about their feelings really, or their thoughts about different issues. So actually in my home, my parents were like quite expressive with their thoughts and feelings. So they would always talk to us about what's going on, or they would express their dissatisfaction about different things that were going on. Let's say our relatives or their job, or just generally, I've been brought up in a home that speaks and communicates. So I think that's what one of the things that have also made me to be very expressive and outspoken in airing out what I feel, or giving my thoughts and perspectives about different things. So my dad used to encourage me to speak up, and he used to encourage me by giving me examples of like women in the society who have made it. For example, women in areas like politics, or like just women generally, like for example, like Kathy Kilonzo. So I grew up seeing women who are successful, and for me that set a very good example for me. Going back to our topic, I feel like I'm deflecting, but I'm gonna try to be on task. What does a Kenya mental health situation look like? Kenya mental health situation is still mostly gender based, I like to say. Forgive me, because I'm inclined towards gender, and we are still seeing situations whereby women are more expressive. They can air out their thoughts and their views about things. However, men are still being told, you need to be a man, you cannot cry, you need to stand up, you need to, be strong as a man. And so we've seen a lot of gender-based violence situations about men and women fighting and all that, just because they couldn't speak up, or they couldn't talk about what's going on. And there's still a lot of shaming, victim shaming, when it comes to mental health. Like when somebody comes out and they are talking about their experiences, most people are likely to judge them, and most people are going to laugh at them. And what this does is it creates a society whereby people show up appearing to be very perfect, appearing to be confident, and you think everything that their lives are well figured out, but that's not the situation, because they know if I talk to someone and I tell them that this is what I'm going on, 100% they're likely to shame me or to laugh at me. So I still feel like the Kenyan society, let's say for example the Robert Burale case and the Rosina Mwakideu case. So if you look keenly at that situation, you're likely to see that there was a lot of abuse, emotional abuse, especially to the woman. But you know what people are saying, are still shaming her and telling her that she should have kept quiet, she shouldn't have spoken up about those issues. So you see, instead of embracing such scenarios, because they are happening in our homes, people shame the victims instead of helping them. Okay, I also talk about the issue of access to therapy. So I'm a beneficiary of therapy, and I managed to get free therapy at some point in my life when I was going through a rough situation and trying to figure out myself. And I got this information about free therapy because I was associated with a friend of mine who would host webinars about mental health, and then they could mention that in case you need free therapy, then we have avenues where you can get free therapy. So that's where I got free therapy. And I'm always asking myself, like, how many people back in the village know that we have therapy, free therapy, in our Kenyan public hospitals, especially the district public hospitals? There's usually a therapist on board. But again, I'm assuming that if a district hospital has one mental health specialist, it means that that's already way below the expected number, because so many people are seeking for these services but they're not able to access them. And if you try and book a therapy session in Kenya, it's very expensive. So we are talking about 2,000 per hour to 5,000. So mostly they range between 3,500, and for an average Kenyan citizen to afford 3,000 for therapy, that's a lot of money. I mean, are we buying unga, or are we buying our necessities, or we will actually go to therapy? So most people are willing to go to therapy, but the cost of therapy is the issue. So maybe the government needs to work on how to train more people, even in the communities, to be therapists, or to be, to just be people who can provide guidance on different things. Like, for example, how we have clinical officers in our community. So I think they can find such people and train them on mental health issues. I got introduced to mental health at a very young age, and someone in my community committed suicide. And this person was a church member, and a senior church member who also had leadership positions. And there's one day my mom just comes home and tells me, you know what? He actually committed suicide and he was found hanging in a tree. And at that age, I did not understand why someone would hang themselves in a tree. And I've always had questions about that situation. Of course, my mom didn't explain to me like in detail, or even if she did, because like I mentioned earlier, I come from a family of people who speak up and express themselves. So when I grew up, like I'm still growing up, so I've always been passionate about mental health, and that's why even in the universities I was so much involved into mental health issues. And that's when I got into Nivishe Mental Health Fellowship, which usually actually opens positions like every year. So in case you're interested in being a mental health fellow or learning more about mental health, check out Nivishe. I'll tag them on the description so that you can check on them, especially on LinkedIn. And then once they announce their positions, you can apply. So in Nivishe Mental Health Fellowship, we got to learn more about how to manage stress, different mental health issues or disabilities that people can have. And we got to learn about so many coping strategies. And for me, since I enrolled in the fellowship, I've never been the same again, and I've never looked at mental health with just one lens, or from a lens of judging people who are going through hard times or hard issues. Now, I cannot end this video without talking about depression among Kenyan youth in general. And I tend to believe that most people do not even understand when they're going through depression. I think so, because we do not have information about mental health. especially, these sessions should be facilitated in Kenyan high schools, or we should actually have a special unit or a special topic in Kenyan university that talks about mental health. Leave alone guiding and counseling sessions. Like, even those guiding and counseling sessions need to be taken seriously, because it is during those guiding and counseling classes that math teachers take advantage and come and teach us another topic. Yeah, so guiding and counseling sessions in Kenyan's high schools will really play a key role in disseminating such information about characteristics of someone who has depression. So I strongly believe that most people in the Kenyan society do not even understand why they're having depression, because they even don't know, like, when you feel some type of way, you're actually depressed, or when it's continuous and in a month you're feeling like you don't want to move, you don't want to do anything. So we need to be enlightened as a community about mental health, and that will surely help us to move towards the step forward when it comes to addressing mental health issues. As we commemorate World Mental Health Day, these are my key takeaways about mental health. That mental health is very personal, and you don't need to be defined. You don't need to allow yourself to be defined by somebody else's story or narrative about mental health. So you need to, as you're growing up, you need to understand yourself. You need to do a lot of inner work. And for mental health, you need to learn from your mistakes, actually. Like, you need to take accountability as a person, because it is through those mistakes that you learn about who you are, and it is through those mistakes that you are able to understand your coping mechanisms. So for mental health, learn from your mistakes that you commit and allow yourself to feel the moment. Oh my, I can't emphasize this anymore. Like, feel the moment. When you're feeling sad, allow yourself to slow down and feel the sadness, because once you show up and give this facade that you're happy and yet you're sad, it makes you to feel like you cannot be yourself, and that is even more depressing. And then there's free therapy services online that you can access, or toll-free numbers that you can call for therapy. And then also for mental health, you need to understand your triggers. Yeah, that's very big. Like, that's huge. Clock it. You need to understand your triggers. Like, if you understand your triggers, for example, I get triggered when people talk about polygamous setups. Like, I that triggers me a lot. So definitely I'm going to avoid talking about polygamy, or giving my view or my thoughts about polygamy. Or I can give my view, but when I feel like it's getting misinterpreted, then I'll definitely keep off such conversations, because they're very draining for me. And also, what you need to do about mental health is you need to have a support system. Like, try to work on building your own village, because we are moving towards more being like independent people, like self. It's all about self. It's always about me. But try to be more intentional about your friends, about your friendships, so that once you're breaking down, you have a community to bring you up. Yeah, I think that's it from my end about mental health situation in Kenya. Still a lot of steps need to be implemented, but both from the government and even from a society point of view as well. But I believe we are better off today than we were yesterday. That's it from me. It was an amazing discussion, conversation, and I'm so happy to have had this talk with you. So see you next time in the 25 podcast.